Welcome back to Saltwater Stories.
It is so good to be back.
And boy, do we have a cool story for you today.
I think this one might be one of my favorites.
We are heading back to the coastlines and the tide pools to talk about a creature that really defines the idea of resourceful living.
That's so true. Forget about, the speed demons of the open ocean or the giants of the deep for a moment.
Right.
Today, we're focusing on a small yet immensely cunning architect. It's a creature that solved one of the biggest problems in evolution.
Which is
How to get the best armor without actually having to grow it yourself.
That's a great way to put it. This tiny warrior is a master of recycling. It sees the world as like one big hardware store full of protective options.
Exactly. Its key to survival isn't building a tank from scratch.
No.
It's finding the perfect secondhand mobile home and then moving in with lightning speed.
And if you've been listening for a while, you might remember our exploration of some crustacean family giants. We talked about one of its relatives, a massive, incredibly strong one,
The largest terrestrial arthropod in the world. The king of the island.
the mighty coconut crab.
That's the one.
Well, today we are shining the spotlight on that massive monster's much smaller cousin, a creature that uses its wits, its clever engineering, and its incredible knowledge of real estate, really, to survive.
It all comes down to real estate.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about the resourceful, the shell-carrying wonder,
Yeah.
the hermit crab.
What a hermit crab. Their story is it's like a mystery in miniature.
It really is. How does a creature born with such a crucial vulnerability, a soft, exposed body, how does it manage to thrive in a world full of hard-shelled rivals and hungry predators?
Let's set the scene. Imagine one specific crab with me. We can call him Barnaby.
Barnaby the hermit crab, I like it.
So Barnaby is a Caribbean hermit crab. He's maybe only 2 inches wide, and he has a serious problem. He is growing fast. He just had a great molt. He shed his old skin, and he feels strong. He feels bigger, but now his shell, it feels like a pair of shoes that are 2 sizes too small.
And for Barnaby, that feeling is pure terror.
Yeah.
When a hermit crab outgrows its home, its entire future is instantly put at risk. A tight shell, it restricts his ability to move, it hinders his growth.
And worst of all.
Worst of all, it prevents him from pulling all the way inside to seal the door.
Yeah.
Any passing bird or a hungry fish could just pluck him right out.
So Barnaby knows he has to find a new, bigger home, and he has to find one quickly. And that means he has to risk everything.
Everything.
He scuttles across the sand, his tiny eyes on those little stalks swiveling frantically, scanning the whole beach for just the right spiral shape.
And when he finally spots it, maybe a beautiful empty shell left by a horse conch, he can't just move in.
No way.
He has to perform a really detailed inspection, calculate all the risks, and then make the fastest, most vulnerable move of his entire life.
And that single moment, that lightning-fast switch, it really sets up the whole puzzle of the hermit crab's existence, doesn't it?
It does. How does this amazing creature manage to find the perfect mobile fortress in a world where finding an empty shell of just the right size is maybe the hardest real estate transaction in all of nature?
That incredible adaptation is what we're going to explore today.
It's an amazing story.
Okay, let's start by clarifying exactly who we're talking about. We call them crabs, but are they really crabs? What is their secret identity?
That's the perfect place to begin, because the answer is, well, no, they are not true crabs.
Not true crabs, so they're imposters.
In a way. They're certainly crustaceans, animals with an outsized skeleton and exoskeleton, and they're decapods.
Decapods, meaning 10-footed.
Exactly, they have 10 legs. But biologically, they belong to a totally separate group.
So when we think of, say, a blue crab or a Dungeness crab, those are the true crabs.
Right. Scientists call them Brachyura. And if you look at one, you notice they wear a single fused hard tank of armor over their whole body.
Yeah, it's like they're one solid piece.
Exactly. A true crab has a short, flattened abdomen, what we might call its back half or its tummy, and it's completely calcified.
Calcified meaning hardened with calcium, like our bones.
Precisely. And that hard abdomen is tucked securely underneath its body, locked right in place. It's a built-in tank from head to tail.
But the hermit crab is different, and this is where their vulnerability and, I guess, their genius comes into play. Tell us about their special tummy.
Hermit crabs belong to a group called Anomura, which is sometimes called false crabs.
False crabs. I like that.
And their key difference is that abdomen, which scientists call the pleon. Unlike a true crab's abdomen, the hermit crab's pleon is, well, it's soft. It completely lacks that hard calcified armor. It's thin, squishy, almost like a membrane.
And that soft body part, that's where all their most important delicate organs are, right?
That's the problem. It houses their liver, their reproductive organs, and most of their digestive system. If that soft, delicate body part were exposed, they would be immediately vulnerable.
How vulnerable are we talking?
On land, they would dry out and suffocate almost instantly. In the water, they'd be easily punctured and eaten by any passing fish or another crab. It is their biological Achilles heel.
And it's not just that their abdomen is soft, it has a very specific shape, doesn't it? A shape that dictates what kind of home it needs.
That's the other crucial detail. You're right. Their abdomen isn't straight. It's spirally twisted, like a corkscrew.
Corkscrew, wow.
And this unique lopsided anatomy is what makes a snail shell a completely non-negotiable requirement for their survival. They can't just use a flat rock or a piece of wood.
They need that curve.
They need a curved, hollow, spiraling chamber that can house that soft, twisted pleon.
So their entire existence, their whole way of life is built around this one biological weakness. They didn't grow armor, so they had to borrow it.
They had to borrow it.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly adapted to use the empty homes left behind by gastropod sea snails. That empty snail shell provides a thick, protective fortress that instantly solves their biggest problem.
So when Barnaby or any hermit crab senses danger,
It instinctively knows exactly what to do. It performs that lightning-fast retraction.
and just disappears inside.
Instantly, it curls its soft body deep inside that spiral chamber for maximum protection. The shell becomes a total shield, going everywhere they go, shielding that vital, soft abdomen from everything: the sun, drying winds, crushing waves, and especially hungry predators.
It truly is the ultimate mobile homebody. They spend their entire lives searching for, protecting, and moving into the perfect piece of real estate.
And it's amazing how that one biological weakness dictated such an ingenious survival strategy for, well, over 200 million years.
Let's look closer at the crab itself then, because while the back half is soft, the front half, the part that sticks out of the shell, it's built like a tank.
It is. That's the business end of the crab. The front portion, the fused head and chest called the cephalothorax, is covered by a hard calcified carapace.
So that's their built-in shield.
It is. It protects the brain, the mouth parts, the gills. It's designed to take hits and scrape against rocks as the crab forages for food.
We mentioned their eyes earlier, perched up high on those stalks. They give the crab that classic sort of curious look.
Those stalked eyes are a huge visual advantage. Think of them like built-in periscopes.
Periscopes, I love that.
A crab can stay mostly hidden and protected inside its shell, but just peek its eyes over the shell's edge to look around. It can spot predators or a juicy piece of food without exposing its whole delicate body.
So it lets them check things out before committing.
Exactly. That small difference in vision allows them to assess threats before exposing themselves entirely. It's a huge advantage.
Now, for what I think is the most fascinating part, their legs. They are decapods, 10-footed animals, but it's not just 10 legs for walking. They're like a biological Swiss Army knife.
That is the perfect analogy for it, a Swiss Army knife. Each pair has a hyper-specific job.
And when you see one walking, you don't even see all 10 legs, do you?
You don't. You usually only see 6 legs working on the outside. The first pair are the claws for chelipeds, and these are the ones we really need to look at closely because they are usually asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical, meaning one is much bigger than the other. So let's break that down. The 2 claws have different jobs. What about the big one?
The big claw, which is called the major cheliped, that's the powerhouse. It has 2 main functions. It's both a weapon and a shield.
A weapon and a shield.
In many species, especially the land-based ones like the purple pincher, this large claw has evolved into a shape that is perfectly contoured to act as an operculum.
An operculum? That's like a custom-fit door. How precise are we talking?
Extremely precise. When the crab pulls its whole body into the shell, that massive claw slots perfectly into the shell opening, like a custom-made plug. It seals the house completely.
Wow. So it's like a built-in blast door.
The blast door that blocks anything trying to pull them out. And for the land crabs, it also seals in precious moisture, preventing them from drying out. It's a climate control system, too.
So that's the big claw. What about the little one?
The small claw, the minor cheliped, has a much gentler, more delicate job. It's the utensil.
The utensil?
Like a fork, exactly like a tiny fork or a pair of tweezers. They use it delicately for grabbing small bits of food algae, detritus, tiny bits of scavenged meat, and then passing that food efficiently up to their specialized mouth parts for chewing.
So a shield and a fork. That's 2 legs down.
8 to go.
The next 2 pairs are the walking legs, right? The second and third pairs, these are what give them their classic scuttle.
Correct. These are the long, sturdy legs they use for getting around, and they're built tough. They are tipped with sharp, hard points called dactyls. And these points are vital for gripping onto all kinds of terrain, slippery rocks and the tide pools, soft sinking sand.
Or for the land species, tree bark.
Right, they can climb trees with those. And here's a fun fact for you. While they can walk forward pretty slowly, hermit crabs, just like true crabs, can walk sideways much, much faster.
Why is that?
It just utilizes the power of more leg muscles at the same time. It's a more efficient way to move quickly.
Okay, that's 6 legs we can see. The claws and the 4 walking legs. Where are the other 4? This is where the real secret engineering is, right?
This is where the adaptation becomes just incredible. The last 2 pairs, the 4th and 5th pairs of legs, are much smaller, and they stay completely hidden inside the shell.
And they have essential jobs.
Oh, absolutely. They're essential for internal stability and hygiene.
Let's start with the 4th pair. You call them the stabilizers.
They are. The 4th pair of legs are short and strong, and they act like internal braces. They have these specialized friction pads, little rough, sticky patches.
Like the tread on a tire.
Exactly like that. And they push and brace against the smooth inner walls of the spiral shell. So when the crab is moving quickly or being tossed by a wave, these legs keep its body firmly braced and stop it from wobbling or falling out.
So they're like shock absorbers.
Perfect analogy. They keep the crab secure against any internal forces.
Okay, so what about the last pair? The 5th pair? The janitors.
They were the housekeepers, and they might be the most flexible of all. They are used for detailed grooming, like meticulously cleaning the gills to keep them healthy and free of any debris.
So they're keeping themselves clean inside the shell.
And the shell itself. Most critically, they act like tiny brushes and scoops used to flick waste fecal pellets and other debris out of the shell's opening.
They're taking out the trash.
They are. They're maintaining sanitation inside their little microhabitat. A clean shell is a healthy crab.
This all means they are constantly connected to the shell, not just sort of resting inside it. How do they physically anchor their soft body to that spiral?
They do it with something that looks like a tiny, tiny grappling hook.
No way.
At the very tip of that soft, twisted abdomen are these hook-like appendages called uropods. These are the crab's anchor points.
And what do they hook onto?
They grip the central column of a snail shell, which is called the columella, using specialized muscles and immense non-slip friction.
And I heard that grip is almost impossible to break.
It is an active, reflexive grip. If a large predator, say a powerful octopus or a crushing fish, tries to pull the crab out of its home,
The uropods just hold on.
they hold on for dear life. The crab's hold on the columella is so strong that the crab will often allow its own soft body to be torn in half before it lets go of the shell.
It would rather be ripped apart than give up its home.
That is how important that shell is. It is the definition of holding on for dear life.
That is intense dedication to your real estate. Now, if we link this back to their senses, we mentioned the periscope eyes, but their nose is maybe even more important.
Well, absolutely. Hermit crabs live in a world that is defined by smells and chemical cues. Their short inner antennae, which are called antennules, are their highly specialized nose.
And these are covered in tiny little hairs.
They are. These antennules are covered in hairs called esthetasks, and they are designed to detect even minuscule chemical molecules in the water or in the air.
And you can actually watch them sniffing, can't you?
You certainly can. They constantly flick those antennules, almost like a dog sniffing the air, to capture scent molecules.
And the land hermit crabs have taken this even further.
They have. Their sense of smell or olfaction lets them detect the scent of a meal, like a rotting coconut or a dead fish, from incredible distances. It's how they navigate, but it works best in humid air.
Speaking of land crabs, that brings up a huge evolutionary problem. How does a creature that evolved with gills breathe air, sometimes miles away from the ocean?
This is one of the most brilliant adaptations of the land hermits, the family Conobitidae. They face the immediate risk of their gills collapsing and drying out.
So they'd suffocate.
They would. So they solved this by evolving something called branchiostical lungs.
Branchiostical lungs. Okay, that sounds very scientific. How can we explain that simply?
Think of it this way. The chamber where the crab's gills used to sit has had its lining fundamentally changed. The tissue there has become thickened and highly vascularized,
Vascularized, meaning?
filled with thousands of tiny specialized blood vessels. And this new tissue now functions much more like a lung. It could absorb oxygen directly from the air.
But just like our lungs, I'm guessing they need to stay moist to work.
Exactly. If these specialized surfaces dry out, oxygen transfer stops, and the crab suffocates very quickly. And this is where the shell becomes truly multi-purpose. Land hermits are basically mobile humidifier stations.
They carry their own bathroom and water fountain with them.
They do. They carry a small amount of seawater, or sometimes brackish water, called shell water, deep inside the spiral of the shell.
And that water acts as a humidifier.
It does. The crab uses those specialized fifth legs, the little janitor legs, to brush this shell water over the lining of that respiratory chamber, ensuring the surface stays moist and functional.
So if a land crab loses its shell water, it's in big trouble.
Immediate danger. It faces desiccation and death no matter how perfectly its shell fits.
So finding a shell is a major, major life decision. It's not just a random grab. It's a precise biological assessment, a high-stakes real estate inspection.
It is the ultimate calculation of risk versus reward. A crab's choice of shell will determine its growth, how fast it can move, and its overall lifespan.
So when a crab like our friend Barnaby finds a potential new home, he follows a really strict, hardwired sequence of checks.
A very rigorous sequence.
Walk us through that home inspection. What's step one?
Step one is the visual and tactile check. Barnaby uses his periscope eyes to look and his claws and walking legs to feel. He assesses the shell's overall size and shape, making sure it matches his body type.
He's checking the curb appeal.
He is. And then, crucially, he rolls the shell over and taps the surface. He's listening for hollowness and feeling for any cracks, chips, or holes.
Because a crack means big trouble.
A crack is a leaky roof. And for a hermit crab, a leaky roof is lethal. On land, a crack means rapid moisture loss and death. In the water, it invites a predator to exploit that weak point. Structural integrity is everything.
Okay, so he's checked the outside. Next comes the physical measurement.
Yes, the critical aperture check. The aperture is just the shell's opening.
The front door.
The front door. The crab has to insert its claws and probe the opening, measuring the internal width precisely. This is a huge security check.
Why is the size of the opening so important?
Because the opening must be small enough so that when the crab is fully pulled inside, its big claw, the operculum, can slot perfectly into the entrance and seal the house.
Ah, so it has to fit the door he already has.
If the aperture is too wide, the crab is vulnerable, no matter how big the rest of the shell is.
And they check the inside, too, to make sure the house is actually vacant?
That's the internal probe. They need to check for sand, debris, or any other unwelcome occupants. Imagine the surprise of finding another small crab already squatting in there.
Or a parasite.
Or worse. A few species of worms are known to live inside shells, and while some are helpful janitors, others might compete for food. Barnaby needs to ensure the house is truly clean and vacant before he even thinks about moving.
So once the inspection is complete and the new shell gets the seal of approval, we get that incredible vulnerable switch. But why is the assessment so crucial? It sounds like they're doing geometry in their tiny little brains.
Instinctively, they are. They're constantly optimizing multiple competing factors to hit what scientists call the Goldilocks zone.
Not too big, not too small, but just right.
Exactly. Too small is bad, too big is bad, but just right is perfect for survival.
Let's break down the math they're doing. First, internal volume.
Internal volume is the most critical calculation for their future. If the shell is too small, it acts like a tight corset. It physically restricts the crab's size.
It stunts their growth.
Yes, which means the crab can't molt properly or expand. This leads to an early death. And for female crabs, it's even more critical.
Why does the size of the shell affect the number of eggs a female can carry?
Well, female crabs carry and aerate their eggs right underneath their abdomen, inside the shell. If the internal volume of the shell is too cramped, there's simply no physical space to hold the large clusters of eggs, called a clutch.
So a smaller shell means fewer babies.
Fewer, smaller clutches, which directly reduces the population's growth. Choosing the right volume is an investment in the next generation.
Okay, so volume is number one. The second factor is that eternal trade-off, weight. Safety versus efficiency.
This is a really complex negotiation for the crab. Heavier shells offer superior protection. They're like little bunkers against crushing predators like a strong-jawed pufferfish or a mantis shrimp.
But there's a cost.
There's a high metabolic cost. It takes a lot of energy to drag that heavy shell everywhere.
So if Barnaby chooses a shell that's too heavy,
he wastes precious energy. He has to spend too much of his daily energy budget just on dragging that dead weight across the sand or up a rock. This makes his foraging slow inefficient, and it increases the time he spends exposed while looking for food.
So it actually increases his risk in a different way.
It does. Crabs in areas with lofty predators might prioritize the tank-like safety of a heavy shell, but generally, they seek the lightest shell that still offers maximum volume and full retraction.
So let's define the Goldilocks zone consequences. What happens if the shell is definitively too small?
High predation risk, first and foremost, because the crab cannot fully pull itself inside. Its eyes, antenna, or parts of its legs might stick out, turning it into a vulnerable snack.
And its growth is stunted.
Right. And its ability to reproduce is limited. It is basically a slow death sentence.
Okay. And what if the shell is too large?
High energy cost. The crab is dragging unnecessary dead weight, tiring itself out. And it severely compromises security because it becomes difficult or even impossible to fully seal the opening with a big claw.
It leaves the front door wide open.
A wide open door for intruders. And for land species, it causes rapid dehydration.
So the perfect Goldilocks fit, then, is a shell that allows for maybe one or two more molts, provides a full, perfect retraction, and minimizes the energy needed to carry it.
That's the perfect fit. It's an amazing, instinctive piece of engineering analysis. And this constant search for the perfect fit is what drives their entire social economy.
The scarcity of perfect shells, especially the large, structurally sound ones, has forced hermit crabs to evolve one of the most sophisticated cooperative behaviors we see in the invertebrate world. This is the vacancy chain.
This resource exchange system is so critical because the chance of an individual crab just randomly finding an empty shell that perfectly fits its specific needs, well, it's extremely low. They have to rely on their neighbors.
So how does this process, this mass apartment swap, actually unfold when a prime piece of real estate becomes available?
It usually starts when a really desirable shell may be left by a large, recently deceased sea snail washes up on the beach.
And the crabs are drawn to it.
Immediately, primarily through their amazing sense of smell. They detect the chemical cues of the dead snail or even the shell itself, and they come running.
But the first crab to arrive might not be the right fit. It might be huge or it might be tiny.
Exactly. And this is where the social contract kicks in. The crabs don't immediately start fighting over it. Instead, they quickly establish a queue.
They line up.
They literally line up. They often cluster in a scrum around the vacant shell, and they physically size one another up, lining up in order of size, from the largest crab that needs an upgrade down to the very smallest.
They're waiting patiently for the good of the whole community.
Well, it's cooperative self-interest. They know that if this chain reaction starts, everyone has a much higher chance of getting an upgrade with minimal risk compared to fighting one-on-one.
So what kicks it off?
When the initiator, that's the largest crab that fits the new vacant shell, finally moves in, its old shell becomes available instantly.
And then the domino effect begins.
It is mesmerizing to watch. The old shell, now vacant, is immediately claimed by the next largest crab in line, which leaves its old, smaller shell vacant for the third crab, and so on down the line.
So in just a few seconds, a whole bunch of crabs can get a new home.
In seconds, sometimes dozens of crabs get a home upgrade in this rapid, sequential swap. It dramatically reduces the time any individual crab spends exposed without a shell.
And I love that some species even engage in piggybacking to guarantee a spot in line.
Yes, especially species like the Caribbean hermit crab. The smaller crabs will literally climb up and ride on the backs of the slightly larger crabs in the queue.
They're carpooling to the house viewing.
They are ensuring they're right there, ready to drop down and claim that hand-me-down shell the millisecond it becomes available.
But when shells are extremely scarce, cooperation can break down and competition takes over. They will engage in battles for real estate.
They do. And they use a highly tactical, non-brute force method called shell wrapping.
Shell wrapping.
This is a really dramatic display. The attacking crab grabs the victim's shell and repeatedly bangs its own shell, or sometimes this large claw, against the victim's shell in a rapid, rhythmic sequence.
It sounds like they're just hitting them hard, like hammering on the door.
It's far more sophisticated than just hitting. The attacker is creating high-frequency vibrations that act like a sonic weapon, specifically targeting the poor crab hiding inside. They're physically disrupting the internal stability of the victim.
What does that feel like to the victim crab?
Imagine being inside a small, dark, echoing chamber while someone violently hits the outside with a drumstick 50 times a second. It is meant to intimidate, disorient, and exhaust the occupant.
It's psychological warfare.
It is. The attacker keeps rapping until the victim is so rattled and exhausted that it releases its vital grip on the columella and flees its shell, allowing the attacker to steal it. It is a calculated eviction.
It's incredible that they have developed acoustic warfare. And they also produce other sounds, right? The language of chirps or stridulation.
Yes, hermit crabs aren't silent. They can produce chirping or croaking sounds, often by rubbing specialized ridges on their large claw against another part of their body.
And what are they saying?
They use the stridulation to signal dominance, to warn off rivals, or to signal defense to a predator. The clear back-off message.
I also heard scientists even found a secret internal instrument that allows some of them to growl.
That is one of the most unexpected discoveries. Crabs have something called a gastric mill.
A gastric mill.
It's essentially a set of tiny, hard, teeth-like structures located inside their foregut, used for grinding up food. Research suggests that some related crustaceans can rub these internal stomach teeth together to produce sound.
So they are literally capable of making a deep warning sound, a growl from the gut, without having to move their external limbs.
Exactly. It's an internal alarm system. It's usually a deep defensive rumble used when they feel their shell is being moved or threatened. It's a remarkable example of leveraging existing anatomy for a totally new communicative purpose.
The hermit crab's reliance on a recycled shell isn't a recent gimmick. This is an ancient story, spanning hundreds of millions of years. When does this tale begin?
The fossil record points us back to the early Jurassic period, about 185 to 200 million years ago. That's when the earliest ancestors of the hermit crab were scuttling along ancient coastlines.
And they looked quite different then. They weren't lopsided.
They were symmetrical. The earliest ancestors likely had straight abdomens and claws of equal size, a bit like a modern squat lobster.
So they didn't need the corkscrew shape.
They didn't, because they were using different types of protection, perhaps the straight shells of tusk mollusks, or crevices in rocks, or even hollow pieces of wood.
And they even used the shells of prehistoric creatures.
Yes. Before modern sea snails became so common, we believe ancient hermit crabs utilized the coiled shells of ammonites.
Ammonites. Wow.
These were those large, extinct, squid-like creatures with the beautiful chambered spiral shells. Imagine an early hermit crab peering out from a massive, fossilized ammonite spiral, a prehistoric mobile home.
So when did the great twisting happen that locked the corkscrew shape into their genes?
That happened during a period of intense evolutionary competition known as the Mesozoic Marine Revolution.
Okay.
Basically, predators like fish and other crustaceans became much better at crushing shells. This forced sea snails, the gastropods, to evolve thicker, stronger, more tightly spiraled shells for their own protection.
And to use this superior, abundant real estate, the hermit crab had to adapt to that new spiral shape.
Precisely. Their straight abdomen became asymmetrical, or lopsided, specifically to twist comfortably into the tightly wound spiral of the modern snail shell. And this twisted design proved so successful that it became genetically logged in, defining all modern hermit crabs.
This leads us to the most amazing evolutionary superpower in their lineage: carcinization. Nature seems absolutely obsessed with evolving the shape of a crab.
Carcinization is the scientific concept that, across different families of crustaceans, evolution repeatedly drives them toward the same stable, armored body shape of a true crab.
It's like an evolutionary sweet spot.
It is. That shape is highly stable, it protects the internal organs, and it allows for rapid sideways movement. It just works.
And the ultimate mind-bending proof of this links back directly to the hermit crab family tree.
Yes, the massive, spiky, highly armored king crabs. The ones you see in those documentaries about the Bering Sea.
The ones that look like armored tanks.
Those are actually giant, highly modified hermit crabs.
Wait, what? How can a creature that looks like a walking fortress be related to a soft-bellied hermit living in a recycled house?
It was a huge surprise, but it was confirmed through DNA analysis and anatomical studies. Millions of years ago, the ancestors of king crabs likely grew too large for any available shells.
They couldn't find a house big enough.
They couldn't. So they essentially abandoned the shell-dwelling life and decided to grow their own armor, a process of self-carcinization.
They recalcified their bodies.
Exactly. They grew thick carapaces and those intimidating spikes, evolving into the self-made tanks we see today. But the evidence of their hermit ancestry is still there, if you look very closely.
What's the clue?
A true crab has a symmetrical, perfectly flattened abdomen. The king crab's massive tucked-under abdomen is still noticeably twisted and asymmetrical.
That lopsidedness is a permanent biological scar, proving its lineage to Barnaby and his shell-carrying cousins. That's incredible.
It truly is. But not all hermits followed that twisting spiral.
Mm.
We still have some deep-sea oddballs that are like living fossils, retaining that straight-bodied look.
These are the symmetrical hermit crabs.
The Pilocheliddae.
Yeah.
They still have the straight abdomen of their Jurassic ancestors because they live in deep waters where they don't primarily encounter spiraled snail shells. Instead, they use straight structures.
What kind of homes did they find down there in the deep?
Things like hollow pieces of sunken bamboo, tusk shells, or even hollow plant stems that wash down from the surface. One amazing example is the Xylopagurus, often nicknamed the wood eater, found deep in the Caribbean.
What makes the wood eater so unique?
It inhabits cylindrical pieces of wood or bamboo, and its straight abdomen is heavily calcified, hardened, and acts like a perfect plug or shield to seal the back entrance of the tube.
So it blocks both ends.
It enters headfirst, uses its claws to seal the front, and uses its hard tail to plug the back, making it highly secure. And yes, it actually feeds on the wood itself or the bacteria that help decompose it. That's how it got its nickname.
The hermit crab family is enormous, isn't it? Something like 800 known species. We've talked about the land-dwelling cousins, the Conobita genus, which are famous for their beautiful colors.
The land hermits are incredible because they show the extreme adaptation required to survive so far from the sea. Two famous examples are the Caribbean hermit crab.
Also known as the purple pincher.
Exactly, because of its giant striking purple claw. These crabs can travel for miles inland into coastal forests.
And then there's the jewel of the family, the strawberry hermit crab.
The strawberry hermit crab, C. perlatus, is simply stunning. It's famous for its brilliant red speckled color. It looks exactly like there are seeds scattered across a ripe strawberry.
But this beauty comes with a catch, right? It's highly specialized.
It is. It must remain very close to the coast.
Why can't the strawberry crab roam as far inland as the purple pincher?
It's an extreme coastal specialist. Unlike some of its relatives that can tolerate brackish water, the strawberry hermit needs regular, deep access to pure salt water. It has to dip into those tide pools regularly to replenish its internal salt balance and keep its special lungs supplied with fresh seawater.
So its beautiful color is a sign of its very specific habitat.
It is.
Now let's revisit the giant we mentioned at the start, the king of all land arthropods, the coconut crab.
This is the titan. It is the end point of terrestrial hermit evolution. They are enormous, weighing up to 9 pounds with a leg span over a meter.
And as juveniles, they use shells.
They do, but as adults, they simply outgrow every shell on the island. So they abandon them entirely and become naked hermits.
They must have evolved a new defense mechanism when they gave up their homes.
They focused on size and brute force. Their carapace recalcifies and thickens, turning them into a massive armored vehicle. And their strength is unbelievable.
Their claws can crush coconuts.
Biomechanical studies have measured their crushing claw force at 3,300 newtons. That is more than enough force to crack open the fibrous husk of a coconut.
And they're so adapted to land that they can't swim anymore.
That is a critical evolutionary change. They are strictly terrestrial. They will actually drown if they're submerged for too long. They climb trees, they're effective scavengers, and they are powerful nocturnal predators. Oh yes, there are documented cases of these giants hunting and eating live prey. They can climb coconut palms to surprise and consume large seabirds that are resting in the branches.
Wow. Okay, moving back to the water, where the shell crisis is constant. Some marine hermit crabs have found a clever way to avoid the stress of house hunting forever.
Yes, through symbiotic partnership.
Teamwork.
Nature is full of these trade agreements. The most famous example is the mutualistic relationship between a hermit crab and a sea anemone, specifically the Adamsia palliata anemone.
It sounds like a perfect roommate situation. How does the anemone help the crab avoid the stress of moving?
The anemone attaches itself firmly to the hermit crab's shell. And here's the secret. As the crab grows and needs more space, the anemone secretes a tough, specialized chitinous material that gradually extends the shell's edge.
It builds an extension on the house.
It does. This false shell grows with the crab. This means the crab rarely, if ever, has to find a new house. The anemone provides a custom, expanding home.
Plus, the anemone provides a serious bodyguard service.
Absolutely. The anemone's tentacles are armed with powerful stinging cells which deter major predators like octopuses, which might otherwise try to pull the crab out. The crab gets a custom, growing home and an armed bodyguard.
And what does the anemone get out of the deal?
It gets a free ride to new feeding grounds. And when the crab eats, and crabs are messy eaters, the anemone catches all the falling food scraps. It always has access to nutrients. It's a perfect win-win.
And the fidelity in this relationship is amazing. When the crab absolutely must move houses, it doesn't just abandon its friend.
Now, the crab is a very careful partner. It will gently tap and massage the base of the anemone with its claws until the anemone relaxes its muscular grip on the old shell. Then, the crab carefully peels the anemone off and places it onto the new, bigger shell.
It takes its roommate with it.
It ensures its growing home, and its protector moves along with it.
We also heard about a tiny janitor worm that sometimes lives inside the shell. That seems a bit risky for the crab.
That's the polychaete worm. It's a live-in housekeeper. It often lives high up in the deepest parts of the shell spiral, far from the crab's claws. It keeps the interior clean by feeding on the crab's waste and any food scraps that fall inside.
So it's another partner.
It's a tiny, complex ecosystem nestled inside a recycled home.
But this incredible 200-million-year-old story of resilience is now facing its greatest challenge, and it's driven by the modern human world. Their ancient survival instincts, which tell them to find a hard, spiral home, are failing them today.
That is the tragedy. Their entire life depends on the availability of high-quality, empty gastropod shells. But humans have created a severe shell shortage.
How does human activity cause a shell shortage?
It's as simple as souvenir collection. When people visit the beach and take beautiful shells home for crafts or decoration or just to keep on a shelf, they are permanently removing a vital, finite resource from that ecosystem.
And that one shell might have been the perfect critical home for a growing crab.
Or a female carrying her eggs. And this shortage forces crabs into truly dangerous substitutions.
What kind of things are they using instead?
Faced with a life or death choice, they're forced into unsuitable, dangerous substitutes. Broken glass, sharp tin cans, or man-made plastic trash like bottle caps.
And those aren't good homes.
They're lethal. They offer no protection against crushing predators, and on land, they can overheat very quickly due to poor insulation, basically cooking the crab inside.
But the plastic waste we leave behind creates an even more gruesome threat, one that weaponizes the crab's own sense of smell. This is the plastic trap.
The mechanism of the plastic trap is horrifying, precisely because it exploits the crab's survival biology. When plastic debris like an empty bottle or a cap washes ashore, it often starts to smell like organic matter as algae or bacteria grows on it.
So it tricks the crab's amazing nose.
It does. The crab, driven by that sophisticated nose, crawls in, thinking it has found a vacant shell or a potential meal.
But it can't get out.
Exactly. The inner walls of most plastic are smooth, hard, and slippery. The crab can easily slide in, but because it's adapted to grip the rough inner column of a natural shell, it cannot climb the smooth plastic walls to get out. It becomes trapped.
And it dies inside.
It dies slowly from heat or dehydration. And then, the true horror of the trap begins.
It gets worse.
When that trapped hermit crab dies, its decaying body releases a potent chemical signal, a specific scent that signals to other crabs, hey, a shell has just become vacant.
Oh no.
In nature, this is a useful, crucial signal that helps crabs find shells efficiently. But in this case, it acts as a lethal lure.
It attracts more crabs into the same death spiral.
It does. That scent attracts more crabs into the plastic bottle, and they too become trapped and die, creating a chain reaction. This phenomenon turns a single piece of plastic into a population-wide mortality sink.
And the numbers are just heartbreaking.
Researchers estimated that over 570,000 hermit crabs die annually in these plastic traps on just 2 remote island groups in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. It is a devastating, human-made ecological crisis.
And there's another major environmental threat, one that interferes with their ability to navigate their world: ocean acidification.
This is caused by the ocean absorbing increasing amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which lowers the water's pH, making it more acidic. And one of the major impacts researchers have found is on the crab's ability to smell.
It essentially ruins their nose.
It interferes with the mechanics of those specialized hairs on their antennules. The acidity disrupts the reception of chemical signals, making them functionally olfactory blind.
What does that mean for them day to day?
Studies show that crabs in acidic water take significantly longer to find food, they struggle to recognize mates, and they're slower to detect approaching predators. It impairs their decision-making and makes them extremely vulnerable.
So after hearing this incredible story of adaptation, what simple, actionable things can we do to help these tiny, resourceful architects survive the modern world?
There are 2 simple, powerful actions every single listener can take. First, Always remember to leave seashells on the beach.
Take a picture instead.
Exactly. Take a picture, admire it, but leave it there. That shell is critical, potentially life-saving infrastructure for a growing hermit crab, or perhaps a female carrying the next generation.
And the second action tackles the immediate threat of the trap.
Always keep our beaches and coastlines clean. Make sure to throw your trash in the trash can and recycle properly. Removing plastic debris, especially bottles, cups, and caps, directly breaks that gruesome plastic trap cycle and saves thousands and thousands of crab lives every year.
What an incredible journey we've taken today, exploring the ingenious world of the hermit crab, the ultimate architect of adaptation.
We saw how this creature, born with a soft, spiraled vulnerability, basically invented the concept of recycled housing. We learned that its hidden fourth and fifth legs act as crucial stabilizers and janitors inside its home.
And that its nose is specialized to sniff the air for safety and food from great distances.
We uncovered the complex social economics of the cooperative house swap queue, where dozens of crabs can upgrade their homes in a single, lightning-fast domino effect.
And my favorite mind-bending fact, we discovered that the massive armored king crab is actually a highly modified hermit crab that just evolved its own armor, proving the evolutionary success of the crab shape.
The hermit crab truly shows us that the greatest strength in nature isn't always brute force. Sometimes it's the sheer ingenuity and resourcefulness to adapt and make the absolute most of what you have.
We sincerely thank you for joining us on this exploration of the hermit crab's incredible story. But as we saw today, the creature that evolved for 200 million years to turn an empty snail shell into a vessel of life is now struggling desperately with the plastic shells we leave behind.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to think about. If plastic bottles are becoming the new, slick, inescapable shells, what new trick or evolutionary adaptation, a new biological superpower, would a hermit crab need to evolve millions of years from now to escape that slippery plastic trap and survive the world we are creating?
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop looking beneath the surface. See you next time on Saltwater Stories.